All right, well, here's our next round of RSM 308 videos, and this is going to deal with single elimination tournaments. So we've talked about round robin tournaments and how to do round robin tournaments and create round robin tournaments. And now we're going to look at single elimination. Again, a very common way of doing a tournament and setting up a tournament. And it has its own strength, but it also has some of its weaknesses that we'll talk about. And so we'll take a look at single elimination and how to create that single elimination tournament. Single elimination is the most well-known type of tournament. One of the biggest single elimination tournaments every year is March Madness, and so one and done. You play each game, and if you lose, you go home. If you win, you keep going. Single elimination tournament. Okay. The nice thing about single elimination tournament is most times, the March Madness is a little different. They drag that out a little bit more money in the dragging it out a little bit, but most times, we can knock out a single elimination tournament in a weekend or a couple days and get through a whole lot of teams in doing so. So, really well-known tournament. The key to understanding single elimination tournaments is understanding the powers of two. So powers of two, any tournament that comes out to a power of two is the perfect tournament. So, a two-team tournament, that'd be basically a one power of two, that'd be perfect. Those two teams play, one team wins, one team loses, it's over. 2 to the second power is 4. Okay, 2 times 2 is 4. That's all it means is power. 2 times 2 times 2, or 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, right? So basically the power of 3, and it's 8. Power of 4, 16. Power of 5, 32. And it works its way on up, and you can continue going out. But understand that's the power of 2. Okay, and it's basically looking at having an even number going into the tournament, and so it come out perfect, right? Why do you think they have a 64-team tournament in college basketball? Because it's an even number. Okay, used to have a 32 team. Okay, then they went to a 48, and 48 it wasn't a power of 2, so you had to have about bye games. Okay. So non-powers of 2 just mean you're going to have bye games. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have teams that have a bye in the first round. Okay. So seedings, and that's kind of one of the things they went to, is now it's a 68-team, right? And they have a play-in game to get more teams in, and then it still comes down to a 64-team tournament, right? Seeding wise, you determine through determining the schedule matchups so that the best teams will ideally face each other in later rounds. So you don't want 1 versus 2 right off the bat. You want to have it broken down so your best teams are going to meet towards the end. Now that's the great thing about March Madness is those upsets, and so it doesn't always, if you've done the bracket, it doesn't work out perfectly. The favorite teams don't always win. Okay. But they try to seed those teams so that at the end you'll have the best teams matching up. And so you're looking at that seeding and why that seeding is so important with the tournament. Again, how do you do that? A lot of times in regular games, like a regular tournament, you do the round robin. You get the top teams based upon the round robin, and then you play that single elimination tournament based upon those seedings that you've created from the round robin. In a perfect seeded tournament, number 1 and number 2 seeds will play at the end. Will not meet until the championship game. In the championship game, that should be what, if you've got it perfect, that's what you should get, and that's what they strive to try to do. But it's really hard with upsets. Okay. So remember, powers of 2. Powers of 2 are the key for helping you do, and I'll show you some more how to look at it here in a second. Advantages of single elimination, they're really easy to understand. You know, I win, I move on, I lose, I'm done. Okay? And you can track where you're supposed to go based upon that. It's really simple to conduct. Okay? It's really simple to put together, and so it makes it pretty easy to do. It's useful in determining champion. You're going to get one winner. Round robin, we talked about, you might end up with a tie. You might have all these different leagues and they don't play against each other, so you really don't know who the best is. It can be done in a short time frame. It's good when facilities are limited. Okay, since you can knock it down in a short period of time. It helps if you're limited in your ability to have facilities. Accommodates a large number of entries. Again, working together with facilities, you know, this is nice. We can get a whole lot of people through these tournaments, or a whole lot of teams through these tournaments, and it's not such a drain on facilities. It's interesting for the spectators. It's exciting. We all get this year was awful because of not having March Madness. You know, we didn't have that to look forward to. Didn't have that. It's an exciting period of time watching those teams go through the tournament. So it's good. It's also good for one-day events. You can knock out a one-day event in a single elimination tournament, and it's also usually very economic to run. It's bringing in money, but not putting a drain on yours as well. Disadvantages: minimum participation. You're one and done. Participation could be one game, so that's always the downside. If you're looking at participation and participation being an important element of it, you might not get it from a single elimination tournament. What's the most emphasized thing is winning, and so now that competition is really the big key element, and so maybe that's not what the purpose of your event should be. Again, that's one of your decisions that you have to make based upon what your philosophy of your agency is, what you're trying to accomplish. The champion may not represent the best team. You know, there's every year there's that talk about, well, the best team might not have won because they got upset. They had one bad game and now they're done. It happens sometimes when a team where they go undefeated throughout the whole season. They play in the tournament and they get knocked out, or they lose in the championship game, and maybe not the best team won, but the best team at that point in time won, right? Games must be played sequentially, so it makes it more challenging for rescheduling, particularly if you're doing outside events. And there's less flexibility for participants. You really don't have that flexibility as far as you have to be there that one weekend or that 1 week, and that's when it's going to take place. So single elimination basics, some basics for single elimination. Okay, so we're getting into that math again and understanding the symbols. Capital N is the total number of teams. Okay, total number of teams. Same as what it was for round robin. Capital N is total number of teams in the bracket. Okay. N minus 1 is the number of games to complete the tournament. So if we have 64 teams in the tournament, we need 63 games to get it done. Okay? And that's what happens in the NCAA tournament without the play-in games. Okay? And then we get into the power of 2. So what single elimination tournaments are based upon is those powers of 2. So 2 times 2 equals 4. That's the power of 2 to the second power, right? 2 times 2 is 4. 2 to the third power, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 2 to the fourth power, that's 16. 2 to the fifth power, that's 32, and so forth. So we just have to understand that those perfect tournaments are those ones that are going to match up with those 2s. Now, even if they're not perfect, we're still going to base them on these power of 2s. So let's say we have a team, we want to do a single elimination, we only have 3 teams. We're going to have to go to the second power of 2, 4, and have 1 bye. Okay, so we'll have 1 playing 4, or the 1 having a bye, 2 and 3 playing. and then the winner of 2 and 3 will play 1, and that'll move on. So we always have to keep in mind, we're always going to keep those powers of 2 in mind, because that's going to help, or that's going to determine how we set up our brackets. Okay. Number of rounds, the number of times we multiply 2 to equal n or exceed n. Okay, so just like that example, if we have 3 teams, we have to go to the second power to exceed 3. We can't equal 3, but we can exceed 3 with 4. And so that's what we have to do. If we have 31 teams in a tournament, we have to go out to that 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth power to 32, okay, to make sure that we cover it. So that one team is going to have a bye, and then all 31 other teams are going to be, or 30 other teams are going to be playing another team. Okay, so we always want to rise to the power that equals 2 or exceeds the n, the number of teams. The number of byes, it's the next power of 2 minus n. Okay, so in the case of well, here you go. For 31 teams, we go to 32 minus the 31, because that's the number of teams. We have 1 bye, and that's the example I gave you a second ago. So we'll have one team with a bye in that circumstance. Okay, so we'll go out 2 to the 5th power, which gives us 32 teams, and then we'll have 1 bye. Okay. Number of first round games is n minus byes divided by 2. So in that 31, we have 31 teams minus 1 bye. So we have 30 divided by 2 gives us 15. Okay, because remember that number 1 seed has a bye, so we'll have 15 other games, because we have those 30 other teams that have to play so we have 15 games in there. Okay. So again, some of the math to help us figure out, how many games we're going to have in that first round, how many byes we have, how many rounds we're going to need. Okay. Now, to schedule a single elimination tournament, we need to know 3 things: number of teams, number of games we can play per day, and the number of days available to play. Okay, so similar to round robin, we need to know this information to help us set up the tournament. So we need to know n, the number of teams. We need to know the number of games that we can have per day, and the number of days. So number of games, basically the multiply of how many fields or courts that we have, times the hours that we're going to use, and then in the breakdown of that, and then the days that we have available. So if we have 2 pieces of the information above, we can always figure out the third using some method. So forecasting the days, we know n in the number of games per day, then we can figure out how many days we need, right? If we can minimum number of games divided by games per day, we know minimum number of games that we have to have per day. We know n, number of teams, and the number of days that we have. A maximum number of entries, we know that the number of games per day and the number of days that we have available, and we can figure out how many teams that we can allow to enter the tournament. Okay, so when we talk about drawing the brackets, it comes back to thinking about the power of the powers. So in this case, this is just 2 to the 1st power, which is just 2 teams, right? Okay. Now we've gone up to 2 to the 2nd power, and we have 4 teams. 2 to the 3rd power, we have 8 teams. We go to the next team, it keeps going up and up until we, as far as we want to go with the powers of 2. So we just have to, there's the 2nd power, 3rd power. Next one's going to be 16. So that's the 5th power. We'll go to the 6th power, and so forth. Okay, I'm going to stop here and